So I'd like to share, similar to the previous video that was just done. Most importantly, I want to say that this video is for Thursday because I am starting in advance just so that I could make sure that I don't set myself up with a lot on Friday. I'd like to do something in Manhattan if possible, and it's also I have to prepare for the Sabbath, so it would be best if I don't have to do the video on Friday, just save myself a little bit of time. So I want to start with, we're going to talk about families today. So Simona, Vivi, Hadjigeorgalis is an amazing coach, and she says the version of us that gets pinged or dinged or bumped, that sees red and gets loud and has like a narrowed, strong, glaring eyes, and the energy of the back of my head prickles and the throat constricts and my ribs pull the flesh up into behind my breasts. And my shoulders press into my neck, and I interrupt and I cannot listen. It doesn't know that it has me, this adult Shayna, here and now. It is a nonlinear inner child posture that has not integrated all the time that has passed since I'm a child. And she says, when we navigate uncertainty with steadiness and connection, we empower through trust, connection, transformation. Number one, empathy must precede advice giving. And so we're going to start to learn how to be with ourselves first. So before we could do this for anyone else. So in other words, that kind of sounded like somebody was a little out of control, and I could think about how I've showed up like that. So how do I start by having a new precedent, or at least a new baseline? So one, empathy must precede advice giving. And a clue that we're in the adaptation vortex is being unable to have empathy first and just feel the urge to push advice, which is a controlling, fixing, just not wanting the other person to have certain emotions. And this is kind of continuing from what we talked about in the last video. Number two, we have to check if the moment actually requires guidance or trust. We have to spot patterns of a pull to fix or manage things when the moment requires instead stepping back to allow the other to emerge, to become, including me, that inner child, to emerge, to become. Three, over-functioning, over-responsibility is not a solution. It's an outdated mode, a stance, a posture that can cause discomfort and disconnection and distrust when it is an inappropriate strategy. For example, a clue that we are taking on something that belongs to someone else. Four, we can notice internal friction and disharmony and indecision in order to check in whether we are coming from presence or worry. We can use number five, the am I getting that right, after simply being with someone, sitting in the quiet with them, not over-explaining, rather letting them respond with a refinement to be more specific. And just become, like, if I'm not getting it right, then letting them refine it and be specific. And just being company, walking alongside them rather than giving ideas. Number six, our brains need a combination of safety and tension. This is important. Like, we need to feel like we have agency, like we actually can do something. And then at the same time, we also want to feel like something, like we're achieving something. I'm going to be right back. Seven, our brains need a moment to integrate, just to pause sometimes. Eight, coping skills that can make sense for when we were children may have been wise and brilliant. It may have been our only option, but now we have more resources. In other words, they're not. In other words, we have more opportunities, clarity, and options. Number nine, when we feel stressed or uncertain, we can listen for what we say in between our own two ears. For example, I cannot be calm till I fix this. God forbid, right? But let's say that's what's going on in here. I'm learning, or hurry up and fix this, or blaming others. For me, a big one to mind my own business recently has been just trying to find ways to not blame others, seeing if there's any other options, if I have more clarity, if I have a role. And 10, sometimes we need to recognize that we're breathing differently. We might have different body sensations, or thoughts might be racing, or just feeling calm and uncalm and unsettled because our brain has layers that are not connecting to our body in linear time, and actually it's reacting as if it's in the past situation, as if it has past information. And getting a little deeper in this, I want to talk about how I wasn't taught that my interests, growing up, I wasn't taught that my interests and preferences matter, or that it's okay to take my time, that I can enjoy things on my own time, that I'm worthy, or that I can listen to people without needing to give that much significance, that a criticism usually should be couched in a kind of praise, and like basically because you're better than that, or you could do better. A higher level of kosher is fresh, natural, healthy, nutritious. Kosher, I always thought growing up meant like it had the symbol, the rabbi was paid to come and check it out. And also like how if someone gives tzedakah and chesed, it tells me everything I need to know about that person. Chesed means loving kindness, tzedakah means charity, like in life, not just in a money or in a warm, not just in like a hug or money, but like in life. And finally, that my opinions will change as long as I learn more about myself, about others, about the world, about, my life, and even about Hashem, my higher power, God. And in thinking about progress, I found that I was no longer self-rejecting as much. I was integrating that God lives me into existence and it's not up to me, and that I could disappear or die at any moment, which my ego doesn't want to face. So it tries to, 1, find proofs that I am powerful and special and important, and therefore I deserve to be here and can maintain my own continuity. 2, it puts my overwhelm on others and overwhelms them. 3, sees a fixed version of me, also like, we sometimes call this like a temporary self that is made real through someone else's eyes, so that I could perpetuate that sense of existence, not do. And another kind of progress I found was not doing a rapid fire spit back communication. Also being able to tolerate insults or name calling and attacks, and also admitting I don't know what happens after death. Another kind of progress was not looking for myself in other people, and allowing sovereignty, that I am whole rather than trauma bonding, and learning to notice rather than automatically try to manage and fix. Another kind of progress was that I actually found myself choosing calmness, of solitude, less interpersonality rather than eruptive volatility, ridicule, intimidation. I also found that progress was coming from that even smart, competent, befriended people cannot escape feeling gloomy or agonized sometimes. And I was also seeing that I was learning how to respond with nurture rather than the indulgence deprivation paradigm. Often the indulgence is a way to pay back for the deprivation that was a punishment or neglect. I found more progress in cultivating the rounded eye, soft gaze versus scrutinizing or ignoring. Like rounded eye, soft gaze is seeing, but gently. The scrutinizing is very harshly seeing, and ignoring is totally not seeing. Like, more progress was awareness of my triggers, that I was finding myself choosing safety over familiar, not loving someone instead of myself, realizing that's not real love. In terms of choosing safety over familiar, I'm saying keeping it, like, instead of looking for the drama, the excitement, the old patterns, feeling calmer without the cortisol in my system flooding. Believing that the same way I have myself and I am my own person, so is everyone else. Not letting my mind out of control drag me around in the maze of mirrors, forcing me to believe thoughts that scare or hurt me, or unconsciously reacting to feelings rather than noticing and experiencing them. I've been finding a lot of progress in returning to my breathing, the ebb and flow, and allowing myself to disappear rather than trying so hard to exist. Progress in giving and touching myself, that direct connection and pleasure and soothing and sensitivity in the now and the here, rather than be that hungry, seeking ghost feeling that was trying to perform for affection and approval. I didn't feel like I really exist. I had to try so hard to exist. That means it wasn't really me. I was just being that person to try to get what I thought I needed. Or what I did need in that time that God gave me, everything happened the way it was supposed to, according to God's distribution of the ability to do it. Learning about parallel perspectives is a big one, like being able to see multiple perspectives from different angles, that they never cross over. They're always going to be in their own lines, but being able to learn about that. Meeting people from the inside, like allowing myself to form relationships and to foster relationships from an inner being rather than who I am observably. And also not filling up empty, lonely, desperately without wisdom and discernment. Like, so more like about not the quick fixes and not just performing and not just so that I could, not to feed the existence of a version of me that doesn't really exist, just is like sort of a way to manage life, and based on what I might have had left over from childhood states before I was healing it, and not letting the fire go out. I was thinking about that today, actually, when I wrote this months ago, not letting the fire go out, that inner flame. not bracing constantly, like being afraid of it going out, or being afraid of being like hurt or impacted. And finally balancing the needs for like what we might call indulgence and discipline, or maybe would say indulgence would say maybe like satisfaction and pleasure, and I think there's a little bit more I'd want to go back to now, or maybe that's a good place to stop. Actually, one more thing I'd like to share. Let's just see if there is time. Yes, from Dr. Todd Pressman, that these are examples of chief defenses. This is how we know that we're in a false self, temporary self. Anger, hoarding, specialness, narcissism, hopelessness, feeling like I have to be special to exist. Depression, judgmentalism, perfectionism, people-pleasing, and agitation. And that is all for today. Okay, all the best. Bye.